Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Little bit of an update to last week's video, which in and of itself was an update. Things have been going better this last week. My internet's finally working fine after talking to the regional operations manager and him talking to the network operations manager for the region. Managed to find the issue, isolate it, and it seems to have been resolved. So fingers crossed it stays that way, because that has definitely been a big mood uplifter. Taxman taken care of, got everything squared away. I understand exactly where I stand, how it's got to be handled, making sure that the IRS gets exactly what they're supposed to get, and that I am not in trouble, because last year again was a huge scare with the huge influx that came during the summer thanks to that Black Chocobo event that we did over on Twitch. Final thing regarding my mother, many of you in the comment section have expressed, just make sure you're taking care of you, best of wishes and whatnot. I do appreciate that. And that's still ongoing. We'll see how that turns out, but that is, it is what it is. And if I need to, I'll update you guys on whatever I need to or in that. But this will be the last time I bring that up, unless some sort of major development happens that forces me to kind of step away from YouTube again for a little bit. That being said, because of all the well wishes, I don't see that many questions in the comment section. So I don't know how long this video will be, but I'll try to do my best to get through as many as possible, since the previous weeks have been a lot of me just kind of coping to get through. Like, let me make sure I do this. I do it every week. It's something that I like doing, but at the same time, I don't want to go crazy for over an hour trying to answer these abundance of questions. I almost said questions. But anyway, let's get to it. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon for supporting. They don't have to support. There's no gain from it. All my content is available for free here on YouTube. You can continue to enjoy it, but thanks to them all the same. Thank you to our patrons of Darkness, Khuja, Cross on Jenova, and Kurenai Oni for going above and beyond. And with that, let's get to the questions. Number one, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Mr. Happy. First of all, best wishes to you and your mother. See, told you there were a bunch of those. Thank you, by the way. Second of all, regarding reworks for existing classes, what would you think about a Dark Knight or Dragoon rework, as Dark Knight is not performing as well and Dragoon feels really busy? Dragoon, unlikely to see any sort of rework. There's really no reason to. Dragoon is going to eventually hit what we like to call critical mass, where they cannot add anything to the job without completely reworking it. I've honestly been surprised that they've managed to find things to add to it the past couple of expansions, because it is just kind of tacking on a couple of little things, maybe reworking or fixing some of the skills. But I don't think it warrants a rework. It flows really well, it's easy to understand, and its optimizations are something that high-level players, while annoyed at, do get to actually partake in. Dark Knight, on the other hand, seems pretty likely. After the recent live letter, they said that they were looking at all the feedback for Dark Knight, and they would have more to say about that in the future. That screams rework. So I think that is definitely getting a rework, maybe even as early as 6.1. But Dragoon, I don't think that's going to happen. That's something that may happen in an expansion in the future, just because it's at that critical mass where they can't add anything to it anymore. But otherwise, I think it's fine the way that it is. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hope all is well. No hello, but I hope all is well with you and your family. That counts as a hello in my book. Thank you. My question is, do you ever see a chance that a new experience of dungeons could one day excel from expert to savage or even ultimate dungeons with a classic light party setup? So we do know that we are getting criterion dungeons starting in 6.2. What those actually are, we're not really sure. We know that the difficulty scales from 1 to 4 people, so you can do it with any number between that, solo or with up to a group of 4, and the difficulty will scale in a way that makes it doable regardless of which ones. We don't understand the purpose of those dungeons yet. We don't understand the actual difficulty of those dungeons yet. But as for doing something savage or ultimate, very unlikely. The number of mechanics you can actually achieve with only 4 people in a dungeon is not very high. There's no tank swaps that can be had. The healing just needs to be really intense, and the DPS checks can only go as far as 4 people are reasonably able to go. Even if you were to take some of the exact mechanics we have in our 8-man savages and even attempt to scale them down to 4, it really removes so much of what would make them what they are. There is, of course, the question of actual loot rewarding as well. If they were that difficult, theory would dictate they'd have to have rewards similar to Savage and Ultimate level stuff. And that's just not going to happen for 4-player dungeons. They're not going to suddenly be dropping another piece of I-600 a week just because you can run through this thing and beat it the one time that it's there. So the answer is just no. I think they'll look to other opportunities to add content that is potentially more difficult for those smaller sizes, but not just Savage or Ultimate level dungeons. Something that is gimmicky, something that is something that is not in the norm of what the game usually produces, like the Criterion dungeons, like deep dungeons. I think we'll continue to see it go down that route. Hashtag Mondays with the Mr. Happy. Oh, this is actually just under 30 minutes ago, so you got this in just in time. Hey, Mr. Happy, how was your weekend? It was fine, thank you. My question is about the producer live letter we just had in regard to the single-player trust system. So for the trust system updates they're adding in, they want to bring in players who want to solo the game or players who don't want to interact with the multiplayer aspects. But how's that going to work to get the solo single players in the CT raids if they're mandatory? There's also the 8-player trials, which are, of course, a thing as well. So the point of it is not to make it so the game is completely solo. It's to limit the amount of potentially stressful interactions that you may have with other people. In 24-player raids, you kind of just blend in as a ghost no matter what happens, so the pressure on an individual player is actually incredibly low. In a 4-player dungeon, while they're very easy, a brand new player is more likely to face major criticisms for their gameplay, more personal interactions, and limiting the scope of those things is really what they want to nail down. Now, they would like to do that with the 8-player trials as well, which still suffer from that kind of issue, but getting players and convincing them to go into a large-scale content that is not very difficult and does not have a lot of personal responsibility tied to any individual player should be something that they are hoping players are still comfortable with. That doesn't mean they don't have a plan for it in the future, but it's really something they're probably not worried about for those particular reasons. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi. I hope you are well and wish you the best with all your family and all with health. Thank you. I'm a tank warrior main, usually purple-blue parse, but for pug purposes, I'm trying to develop flexibility, one of each kind of DPS, so I can jump into more PF Savage groups. Summoner seems pretty easy to do well enough, but I've never played any of the other classes at a high level. If you have any thoughts on which other DPS might be the easiest, low skill, high floor, for Savage purposes? Well, Summoner, definitely my recommendation on the caster part. You beat me to that one. Dancer for... So here's the thing. Dancer would be my answer for range physical, but I think it's a terrible party finder option because unless your party finder is full of absolute juicers, people who are doing absolute work when it comes to DPS, I don't think it's a good choice. You're such a low contributor, you can't make up for the high amounts of DPS that you may need to make up for other people's performance. And then Machinist has its ping issues. It can be a little busy for people, but it's not terribly difficult to play. It would be my recommendation solely because a DPS ends up mattering a lot more if your groups are not performing well. Bard's the middle ground, but it's definitely not the easiest to pick up. It's very, very busy. It still relies a little bit on your teammates to do well. So I'm going to say Machinist, even though it's a little bit busier of a job. But you know what? You're playing Summoner already. Just pretend you're in Garuda most of the time. For melee, I mean, that's extra tough. Some people might meme and say the whole Tornado Kick Monk thing, or not Tornado Kick, the Dragon Kick Monk thing. Dragoon's pretty straightforward. If you don't worry about life windows that much and you just focus on the main rotation, Dragoon's pretty set in stone. Reaper, also very powerful and very easy to pick up and play, even if the burst windows themselves are a little bit busy. As for healers, I mean, I would say White Mage, but no. I'd say Scholar. Scholar's right now. Scholar or Sage, probably what I would take into the Party Finder on healer if I had to. You didn't even say healer. You said one of each kind of DPS, but, you know, everything's a DPS in this game, so my answer still stands. There's a lightning round question above this one that says, do I think they should get rid of shards, clusters, and crystals for crafting? And I'm like, not really. It doesn't clutter because it doesn't actually take up inventory space, and getting rid of them doesn't make more inventory space either because they're like programmed completely differently. They're programmed more like a currency than anything else, I suppose. No, I think it's fine. I think it's fine the way it is. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hope all is well and hope for a swift recovery from your mother. Thank you. On to the question. Been some consistency with streaming and consistency with putting out content. Has there ever been a point where you feel like friends and family did not support your streaming YouTube career at the beginning? If so, how do you deal with it? I shared my first edited video that I used with my PS5 Share Factory and my friends, asked what they think. They read my message and never responded to the video that was only 6 minutes and 40 seconds long, so I thought I shouldn't take. So... okay, so first of all, family. My parents didn't get it. I mean, quite literally, they didn't understand it. Like, they're like, how is that even possible? That's not a thing. You can't do that. Because they straight up didn't know. They saw me doing well with it. That changed their tune entirely. As for friends, most of my friends weren't really surprised by it, but none of them... I'll say this. If I had just sent my friends a can you watch this video and tell me what you think... I probably would have gotten a similar response, and it wouldn't have been because they didn't support me, but it would have been because I mean, it depends. It depends on how relevant that video is to them, how interested they are in wanting to watch a video of their friend that they already hang out with all the time. Sometimes it's like, sometimes it's weird to do that. You have a more personal relationship with somebody, and while yeah, it's an edited work, I guess it depends on what kind of edited work it is. And oh my god, I need to trim this. It is making my nose itch so bad right now. They're just poking up at my nose. Yeah, it's almost weird. So like, I can understand why a friend may not instantly kind of think to get to that unless you really press them, and then you don't really want to press them because it's like, you're just trying to get an opinion on a video. So yeah, I mean, honestly, a friend should be willing to do it, but again, I don't think it's an immediate sign of somebody not wanting you to do well, or not even thinking it's not good. It has everything to do with just it being kind of awkward to watch. So I wouldn't really equate something like this to friends and family not supporting. It's a very specific thing that they're not really prepared for. They don't know what kind of feedback to say. They don't, not everyone knows how to either formulate feedback, or they don't know how to give you honest feedback, or honestly, maybe they didn't like it and they don't want to tell you. So maybe they've seen it and they're just like, I'm just going to avoid this topic until it's absolutely possible. So, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities with that, but that's lack of context, too much lack of context to give a real answer on that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hitty ho. Hi, Haps. Hope all is well with your friends, your family. Wish you a swift recovery for your mom. Thank you. The question is kind of off-branded. What ways do you make gold the best or fastest in Pokemon Legends, but struggling to get Ultra Balls going? So you can buy those or you can craft them. Well, you can buy them if you've done enough side quests, but either way. I've never had an issue with making money. I literally just take the money I get from catching Pokemon and then I turn it back around and then just buy more Ultra Balls with it. I will say this, if you want really good money, there's one of the NPCs in the town actually teaches you how to kind of upcraft materials that sell well. It's like turning Stardust into star pieces, into comet pieces, etc., etc. And if you take those quests and those recipes and then you go just do time distortions can be just worth a ton of money, whether you're finding nuggets or Stardust or pieces or comets or whatever. Even just the evolution materials sell well. I know there's videos out there of like really, really easy ways to make money. And I know that some people use Ursaluna. Some people, again, just do the capturing of the Pokemon and that's all they really need. But those are just a few ways to make some quick money. There's probably like a super hot cheat that I just never needed, so it's not fresh on my mind. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. Hi. What class build are you excited to play in Elden Ring? Any builds you tend to like more when playing through the Soul series? Personally, I always lean towards Faith Miracle since throwing lightning is satisfying. So I have a rule. I go back and forth in every Souls game I play. I play a mage, then I play something melee oriented. Then I play a mage, then I play something melee oriented. Demon Souls, I played a mage, so this time I'll probably be playing something more melee-oriented. Now, I will say this. If bow play is actually good in Elden Ring, I wouldn't mind going that route, because I just never liked bow play in any of them. You can make it work, but I'm just not that excited about it. So when it comes to this one, what I'll probably be looking at is, I don't know. I always like to think back to one of my Dark Souls builds where it was a winged spear with the enchantment that made it scale with intelligence. And then I would still run, like homing soul arrow, but I'd have like a bit of a mix. So it was a melee build that focused on intelligence for magic damage overall. Something like that would be fun to do again. I just don't know how it's going to pan out in Elden Ring. I've tried to do as little research, watch as little footage as possible, minus a few YouTube videos showcasing some of the world bosses that people have found around the map. And so I'm just going to wait. When I start playing it, as I find stuff that's cool, I'll probably make my decision as I go, with the idea of leaning into something that's either bow or something a little bit more melee oriented. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. Hi. Hope things are getting better. They are. Thank you. 2 quick questions, neither of which is really related to gameplay. That's fine. You guys don't need to clarify whether or not it's related to gameplay. It doesn't matter. It's just a Q&A because I do these and people ask questions, so it's nothing fancy. One, why do you wear your headset on your with only one cup over the ear and the other half off? I do it to hear the rest of my home. Like, let's say there's an emergency and like my cats are hurt or Mel is having issues with something. It's so I don't shut out the entire world. I like to do that in college. That was when I wore both ear cuffs over my head. Now I've got a home, I've got a family. I'm not trying to shut the rest of the world out at this point. And this direction is also the direction of the rest of my home. So it just kind of works out for me. And it seems that that's exactly what you do as well. 2, if you were reincarnated... no, I don't do these questions. What race and gender would you... I mean, I'd be myself. I hate questions like this. I always say this. I'd be me. It doesn't matter. I'd be me. Like, I don't know. I don't want to get into it because people know that I hate the if you were put into a game world question. There's actually an RDC world video that I think perfectly encapsulates how I feel about that. That video cracks me the hell up. I don't do it because no matter what, I'm me. This is me. I'm not gonna pick and choose and try to change who I am. I am me, and it doesn't matter what world I go into. That's not gonna change. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hello. Hi. After playing the Triangle Strategy demo, I was sorely disappointed. That's disappointing. As someone who has sunk hundreds of hours in a Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics, the flat voice acting and banal dialogue turned me off instantly. It actually started to feel like a parody. That's just me, but what are your impressions? None of those. Because A, those two games don't have voice acting. So I have no one to really compare. Because the flattest voice acting is none at all. So I wouldn't even make that comparison. Also, the voice acting seems fine. There's just a lot of talking. That's a big thing with Team Asano, the team that makes those games. All of their games are incredibly verbose. They want you to have every reason to love or hate a character, so much so that you almost want to hate everyone because they don't stop talking. As for the dialogue itself, I mean, yeah, the dialogue itself is overabundant, but the dialogue and its actual context is fine. The gameplay is fun. The game systems are fun. I loved it. I love the demo. I'm looking forward to playing the rest. I just know that I'm going to be mocking some of the things that those characters say over time because they're going to say a lot of things. All right, and you know what? Y'all let me off easy this week because so many people were giving me well wishes that I know there's no other questions unless I missed. There's just people saying, you know, wishing you the best. You know, it is what it is. Damn, I'm early. You're gonna plan to make a video with Ethis? I guess that's a question. That's just Ethis is too busy. Doesn't have time. Some people commenting on the Pokemon channel idea. There's all sorts of things here. Just not a lot of questions. You know what? That's a-okay with me because I've actually recorded like 4 videos already today. So y'all doing good for me. I appreciate that a lot. That's good. That's some good stuff right there. That's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Ask your questions in the comment section of the video below, and I'll answer them. Don't forget, we have another live letter coming March 4th for Final Fantasy XIV, Elden Ring, and Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster are both out this week. Strangers of Paradise is gearing up for March 15th when it reaches its early access release. And got Chocobo GP, Triangle Strategy, so busy. Anyway, I'll see you all in the next video. And until then, take care.